OK, we're asking if Keir Starmer can fix the immigration crisis. He spoke out yesterday after it was revealed just over 900,000 more people arrived in the UK legally than left when the Tories were still in power. The stats, which you think that's going to be a decade or something, it covers 1 year to June 2023, are higher than initially thought. While the numbers dropped before the Tories were voted out, Starmer accused the Conservatives of running an open borders experiment. And he put out an emergency statement as well. He vowed to get the numbers down. Have a look.
Where the last government failed you, this one will not. They drove immigration numbers up. We will get them down. They left the NHS flat on its face. We will get it standing tall again. They made you poorer. We will put more money in your pockets. It won't be quick or easy, but we are going to turn things around, not with gimmicks, but with graft. A government that will not rest until the foundations are fixed, borders are secure, and Britain is rebuilt. Thank you.
Starmer vowed to toughen the rules around migrant workers and force employers to train people here in the UK too, but he refused to set a legal limit on overall migration. The issue is that they had this figure, they had about 700,000 migrants, and they've now adjusted it and it's gone to 900,000, and the adjustment is the size of Gloucester. It's just amazing, isn't it?
It is insane, especially when you consider the fact that the Conservative government, time after time, to convince the voters to vote them back into Downing Street, said that they were going to reduce immigration down to 100,000 per year. And they have more than quadrupled immigration.
But this is not the boat. I mean, the boats are part of it. In fact, I think the boats aren't actually included in these numbers. This is about us having a scheme that allows people in, and then also you subtract from that the people leaving. So these are things we should have control over, Guto. That's the odd thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and with some of these, I used to think it was a sign of the success of British universities, that they were more attractive than competing universities in other countries. And it was a good thing that young, talented people from around the world chose to come here, not elsewhere. And there's an upside for us from that. So some of these things are a positive, but the scale of immigration overall now is out of control. And I don't think Keir Starmer, it's like the Orwellian doublespeak from Keir Starmer is almost beyond parody. He talks about putting more money in people's pockets when he's just actually had a budget that does the polar opposite, that's going to kill growth. He talks about getting immigration under control, and he's removed the one thing that the Conservatives were trying to put in for the last 2 or 3 years, obstructed at every corner by lawyers like Keir Starmer.
The Rwanda plan.
The Rwanda plan. A disincentive. There's a reason why Germany are now considering Rwanda. There's a reason why the EU is now considering Rwanda. There's a reason why other countries around the world are trying to put a disincentive into place for young men, largely, to get in boats to jump the queue.
Do you agree with that?
The measures that the Conservative government has been trying and failing to put into place, including Rwanda, including people, asylum seekers into the BB Stockholm, cost the taxpayer billions of pounds. The Rwanda scheme would have cost hundreds of thousands of pounds per person.
Well, not if you get people regularly flying over there, because we only had one person go.
It would still be, well, yes, they didn't have anyone apart from
someone volunteered,
volunteers who they were going to be paying them thousands of pounds to go.
Yeah.
I think that the measures that Keir Starmer is proposing, some of them are actually quite brave. I'm very, very pleased to see the agreement between Iraq and the UK. It's very important that other countries cooperate with us when it comes to tackling the smuggling gangs. And also, I'm very pleased to see that finally, the government is going to tackle the abuse that is taking place in the private sector, where you have all of these companies, especially in sectors like social care, when we know that there is a big need in the country. Well, they bring in vulnerable people. They give them all of these promises from abroad, a promise of a new life. But really, when they come here, they realize that this was all just a scam, basically.
Okay, I didn't really know people coming into work in social care were being trafficked in some way. I didn't.
Not trafficked, but they're given false
But
promises.
sort of, yeah.
And then they're not actually given the jobs that they had been promised for.
Wow.
Because all these companies care about is getting paid for arranging these visas. And then, of course, there are all of these other companies who use cheap migrant labor so that they can keep their wages.
All right. So in a year, 900,000 people. We thought it was 700,000. The adjustment of 200,000 is the size of Gloucester. That's just the adjustment. Barbara, in London, can Keir Starmer sort this out?
No, absolutely not. I think both parties have failed miserably, although Rishi did try with the Rwanda scheme, and it was the Labour Party, the left of the party, that was trying to stymie it at every turn. So, they actually opposed it. I think I'm beginning to think the only person that can reduce immigration is the Reform Party and Nigel Farage, who seems to have best ideas.
Well, I must say, I did think of Mr. Farage today, because I thought, look at what's happening in the States. And they're eating the cats and they're eating the dogs and all that. And I'm just thinking, This is going Farage's way, because if they can't get a handle on this, it's absolutely explosive as an issue for voters. And you obviously feel strongly yourself.
Absolutely. There's a population explosion that both parties actually, Labour and Tory, have almost ignored the fact that the population explosion is affecting hospitals, education, transport and the rest. Yeah. I mean, another thing with Keir Starmer, he said that he wasn't going to use hotels anymore for asylum seekers, and apparently already in his tenure, 6,000 more have already opened.
Well,
so,
yeah, I mean, he's made a lot of, as Guto was saying, he's made quite a lot of quite broad brush promises, which can be a little bit dangerous, but that time will tell, as they say. Thank you, Mike in London. What do you think?
Very quick point about what's just been made, actually. In our neighbouring constituency, Labour got in for the first time in decades, and yet far more people voted for Reform than the Conservatives. They came through the middle.
Which is your constituency?
Bexley. So there's Old Bexley and Bexley.
Oh, so Labour in Bexley, are they? Which is Edward Heath's seat and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the two. They nearly got in my own one, which is very similar to the next one. And it's purely because they drove through the middle with far less votes than either of the other two. That won't happen at the next election. They obviously have got to come to some agreement to stop that kind of thing happening. But back to the question. Yeah. You touched on it. For the first time, someone's actually had the sense to say it just now. People don't seem to understand what net migration means. They think 900,000 people was coming in. It's not that, as you obviously know. Yeah. It's more like 1.2, 1.3 million.
It's that.
But because 300,000 or 400,000 go in the other direction, so it's very deceptive when they say that. And you have to literally read between the lines. But
crucially, Mike, these figures are mostly legal, right? So it's people who've come in under arrangements that the government has laid down. And so it is that we have control over it. I don't know why it takes a long time, like steering a massive ship, to once you put something in place to then rescind it. But we should have control over it.
Yeah, I mean, and also, if you think of the countries that take out immigrants, what are the main four, apart from the little Spanish colonies where the English set up? It's the USA, Canada, Australia in particular, and New Zealand. They all have a strict policy for immigration and a points-based system. We don't do that. We have a whole variety of different skilled people, some more skilled than others, but they do. And I know myself plenty of really good people who can't get into those countries, particularly Canada. So it just shows the quality of people that we're losing on an annual basis.
All right.
I don't think Starmer's got the ideas, no.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, he needs to get a grip of this, doesn't he?
He does, and he's going to. And I would like to see some good faith, because this Labour government has been in place just for a few months. Labour has not been in power for 14 years. I completely agree that there were some mistakes made under Tony Blair when it came to immigration policy. But it has been the Conservatives who have allowed this situation to completely fester, and they've spent all of this money on policies that have not worked. And since Labour has been in government, we've seen a 22% decrease in the asylum seekers backlog, which is one of the most important things when it comes to spending less
I'm
money.
never sure when I hear that. I think you can whip through, and the Conservatives do this as well, you can whip through those asylum seekers cases by just saying yes to everyone. That's one way.
No, not yes to everyone. No, not necessarily. And there will be a lot of people in there who, it is a much better use of our time if an asylum seeker who has their case accepted then goes on and gets a job and works, rather than having them live in really expensive hotels, or even the Bibi Stockholm, which was a terrible, inhumane place to put them, but it cost more than the rich.
The Bibi Stockholm was another disaster of the Conservatives, wasn't it, Guto?
I agree that we need to process these things a lot quicker, but the outcome of that, 9 times out of 10, is immigration goes up again. So again, there's no disincentive here. It's a mess. And what I think we need to do is join the dots and link the fact that people do come here to do jobs that, crucially, a lot of local people are not prepared or able to do. We have 2.8 million people at the moment who claim they are too ill to do any kind of employment
A lot
at
of them
all.
are young now.
Yeah. 800 million more than we did before COVID. I don't believe when a man has just climbed Everest with the trauma that he had in Afghanistan and missing 2 legs, that most of those people are incapable of doing something involving modern technology that is vaguely useful to the economy.
Interesting.
So we bring in immigrants to do the things that they can and are willing to do that locals are not.
Later is the